Hey everybody, it's Wolvash. Welcome to a brand new series, Werewolf the Apocalypse, Heart of the Forest. This is an adventure game from Different Tales, and it kind of functions in the vein of a text-based adventure, but not like the Stories Untold, where we had to like type in suggestions and kind of move the story along through like open-ended questions and suggestions. This is more reading dialogue, like reading a script and then choose your own adventure. Pick what dialogue option comes next, what actions to take, that kind of thing. It's kind of like a Telltale game, except this is presented much more stylistically with like animated backgrounds and no like real character control or anything like that. It's just the story and the backgrounds to heighten the experience. There is like stats and stuff at the top that I saw, but I don't really know how that plays into anything yet. But we'll figure that out as we go along. Now, I do know that Werewolf the Apocalypse is like a tabletop role-playing game, but I've never played it, I don't know anything about it really, other than that it's obviously about werewolves. But I don't know the systems or the lore or anything like that, so this will all be fresh to me. I do know about werewolves, and I do know how to read, and I think that's all we really need to do to try this game out. So let's go ahead and jump into Werewolf, Heart of the Forest. Again, yes, delete my progress. There wasn't much to speak of. Prologue, Premonition. So tutorial, let's get that. Like right here is what I was talking about, where we've got like a rage, willpower, health. We've got the date, and we've got Krenos up here. So let's take a look at these things before we start here. So like rage describes your supernatural anger. Be careful when you rage. High rage allows Maia to overcome many obstacles, but also makes her aggressive and hard to control. Willpower is a pool of points that you can spend to perform actions that are difficult for Maia. Particularly, willpower can be used to prevent the effects of high rage. You regain willpower when you pursue your goal. When your willpower goes down to 0, you are impaired and unable to perform hard mental and social actions. Health. Health is your life force. When your health goes down to 0, you are impaired and unable to perform hard physical actions. So the game doesn't stop. You don't die. The narrative has to play out. But you'll have a harder time doing successful maneuvers, I guess. Moon phase, full moon. That's bad for being a werewolf. Or good if you like being a werewolf, I guess. We have a character sheet. We don't know a name. We have personality assessments: brave, inspiring, analytical, spiritual, cunning, and healthy condition. But that's all we know. I'm guessing Maia will be the name, although I don't know what Krenos means. Alright. Tutorial. This is a game about rage and how it helps us to do things that need to be done, as well as things that we later regret. Sometimes both. How do you feel about that? I'm okay with anger when it's useful. But let's play this a little realistically. I prefer to think before I act. I will overthink before I act, to be honest. My rage is low. So you're the observant and cunning type. That's okay. There's no right path here, just your decisions and their consequences. Consequences. Let's just follow the path and see where it takes us. I guess I'm a little bit spiritual. The forest. The woods are full of stars. They flicker, come closer, run away. They want me to chase them, to play hide and seek. I observe. I watch as they dance around the tree trunks, float up on the gusts of wind that shiver through the branches, disappear among the leaves. There are words in their dance, but I don't understand them, not yet. When they bunch up and fly toward me like an arrow, rushing down, they're soon upon me. But just before the spear of light pierces my breast, they disappear and the dark of the night returns. Low rage response here. In the darkness, the spirits keeping the forest alive whisper about the enemy. I begin to move, unnoticed, one with the night. And then I wake up. Cold and alone. Confused, I open my eyes. The forest around me is thick, dark, and reeks of decay to such an extent that it's hard to breathe. Why am I here? My head is spinning. Why am I here? There must be a reason. The tree trunks wrapped tightly in the dark-leaved ivy are covered in ripples of lichen where the vines haven't taken hold. The thorny, leafless bushes at their base are overrun with nettles. The fungi radiate with a ghoulish, sickly green light. Dark sponge-like mushrooms cling to the fallen trees. Something is rotten. I can't shake the feeling that something died nearby. I look down and see my hands covered in dark substance. I'm naked. A sticky, glistening film of liquid is clinging to my skin. I can feel it on my face, in my hair. Blood. I'm alert now. Nature is never quiet. The leaves rustle in the wind. Small creatures scuttle in the undergrowth. There's a whisper. I don't understand what it means, but the word resonates in my head. Garou. Who said that? There's a severed head right in front of me. Okay, some choices are hard to make and they strain your willpower. So, I could lose a willpower and touch it. Or lose some rage and be sick. I'm gonna wince and touch it and see what I learn. I lost a willpower there. Oh, cool. See, this is what I was talking about, like this very stylistic background we're gonna get. Overcoming my disgust, I gently touch its wet hair and watch as the head topples over. The face is contorted, the eyes bulging, the mouth open as though the head were still struggling for air. I look at it and start to laugh, and then the eyes open in the darkness. Who is it? I can see their silhouettes, shades of jet black against the darkness. They smell of fur and moss and bloodied earth. Massive creatures, some with horns, some with antlers. Their eyes burn like small fiery windows into hell. I look at them and something wakes inside me. Honestly, for me, it would probably be panic. I get up and start to run. I catch my foot on a gnarled root and fall over. The brambles reach out for me, wrapping their thorny limbs around my legs. I struggle and fall face first into the ground. The moss covers my face and pushes itself into my open mouth, choking me. In a moment of clarity, I almost understand that the forest wants for me. And then I wake up. We're having a lot of bad dreams here. Chapter 1, The Arrival. Dreams. Maia? Maia! Maia, wake up! I opened my eyes. My neck was stiff. I stretched lazily as I assessed where I was out of the corner of my eye. I wasn't in the forest anymore. I was in a bus. The sun streaming through the window was making it hard to see. The girl next to me was touching my shoulder, disturbed. I comforted her. It's all right. I squeezed her hand to comfort her. She looked at me concerned. You had a bad dream. The memory of the wet earth clogging my mouth was still there. I fought the urge to retch. I looked outside. Trees were pushing up against the narrow road, their boughs tangled, their trunks carpeted with moss. It was the forest for my dreams. We're almost there, the girl said next to me. Her name was Anya. We'd met a couple of weeks early on orientation day. She was from Norway, a tall, broad-shouldered, calm person who wore her long hair in braids. Somehow I'd managed to talk her into this crazy field trip across the land of my ancestors. Anya is friendly. She seems, let's see, well, what does this say? Vary indicates that this choice is available because of your current stats. So I think, unless we really dislike them, we should probably pick these and put our stats to our advantage, you know? She seems excited. Anya reaches into her backpack and took out 2 apples. I'm really happy we decided to come here, she said. Yeah, I said, offering her some of my kabanosi, dried meaty sausages that were so much better than the original Polish ones back in the US. I was glad Anya had decided to come with me. I had problems keeping friends around and really needed one. I did some searching, she said, from over her phone, and this place is amazing. The last primordial forest in Europe. This trip was my idea. Our summer language course was starting in a few weeks, and I'd managed to talk to Anya into skipping the tours of concentration camps and old churches and visiting. Oh, wow. So I'm going to mispronounce every Polish name in this game. My apologies to everyone. Białowieża National Park with me instead. Oof, it's going to be rough. So far, it's beautiful, she said. But why are we here again? Good question. Why were we there? Does it tell me how to pronounce this? Okay. Białowieża. 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 Białowieża is a village in Poland's Podlasie province in the middle of the Białowieża Forest, for which is named. A small village in northeast Poland near the border with Belarus. It was famous for its national park, the very last European bison, and, according to a quick web search, occasional tensions between far-right troublemakers and the local Belarusian community. The most honest answer would have been, because I've been dreaming about the forest in Białowieża since I can remember. But people didn't understand when I said things like that. I looked her in the eyes. I told her as much as I could. I wanted to see the forest. I heard it was a must. That wasn't technically a lie. When I was little, my grandfather told me stories about an ancient forest full of wonders and the wolves that lived in it. It was all I got from that part of the family before my mom took me, ran away and cut off all contact with my dad. But I remembered the stories well, and I remembered the name of the forest. Oh Lord, here we go. Puszcza Białowieża. Puszcza Białowieża. What does it say? It's one of the last and largest remaining parts of the primeval forest. It's home to the last European bison and packs of wolves. This will always be our home, my grandfather used to say. I waited for her to respond. Anya fell silent for a moment. I think it's great that you come from such a magical place, she smiled. The last ancient forest in Europe. Thousands of years old. I wasn't sure if I was fond of that magic, but it was hard to ignore. And that was precisely why I needed to do something, anything, about my future. That damn forest and my weird-ass family. I had a clear goal in mind. I wasn't there by mistake. I'd planned this trip for months, with a clear goal in mind. I had to learn the truth about my roots. My grandfather's stories, the secrets, my mother running away, there was a mystery in my past. It was time I uncovered the truth about who I was. There was a mystery to uncover and an adventure to be had. I couldn't wait. Oh, hold up somewhere. Welcome home? Białowieża. 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 Looked like an overexposed photo of a village with the contrast turned all the way up. It was a hot, sleepy day on a hot, sleepy street, and everything, the old trees, the yellowed grass, the weathered wooden houses, the fences, seemed almost normal. Everything except the shadows. They were sharp, as though they were freshly printed with the darkest of inks. And they moved. For a second, I could have sworn they'd moved, but then I realized it was just a black cat walking down the sidewalk. When it saw me, it stopped in its tracks. I watched it with suspicion. Hey, do you think there are rabid cats? Because this one is acting weird. I mean, there are rabid squirrels. Why not cats? She shrugged, looking around. Didn't you say your friend would be waiting for us? But he wasn't there, and the cat was still staring at me. Let's go. Anya put on her backpack. I'm tired, and I really, really need to find a toilet. For a moment, I was tempted to just get out of the sun and worry about my missing friend later. But the meeting was just too important. Let's just wait a little longer, I said. I don't have his number, and we really need to meet up with him. His name was Bartek. I'd met him online while researching. I got stumbled up just looking at that word. Białowieża. I think I got it. The man knew everything there was to know about local history. I asked him to check if anyone in town remembers my grandparents. I hope he's found something. I really need to pee. Anya said it like I was 5 years old, and not a very bright one. I made my best puppy dog eyes. Let's just wait a few minutes longer. Please? Pretty please? I made my best puppy dog eyes. It's important. The things we do for friends. Anya looked around to see if anyone was coming, and then made a beeline for the nearest bushes. Watch my backpack, and you owe me. So I waited. And the creepy cat waited with me. Bartek was 15 minutes late, flustered and apologetic. It was his dad's company, he explained, while catching his breath. He had to help him out with some paperwork. He seemed uncomfortable. I thought you were on summer break, I said, noticing his discomfort. You said study forestry. You said you study forestry. I do, but my dad has a lot of different businesses. One of them is loosely connected to wood, so he uses me whenever he can, he said as he rubbed his neck. Fathers, I shrugged. I could understand daddy issues. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and had freckles all over his face. Come on, I'll take you to your place. His accent was broad and very Eastern European, much like my own. I flooded him with questions. Luckily, he loved talking about his home, so when I flooded him with questions, he kindly obliged. He talked about how the village had become a tourist destination, how the logging industry had moved to a nearby town, how the trains had stopped coming, and how the local train station had turned into a hotel for wealthy foreign hunters. The dozens and dozens of bison statues scattered around the village watched us indifferently. We walked along the only street in the village, slowly making our way toward the outskirts. The trees were growing denser, their scent becoming richer and more pronounced. I took a deep breath. So, did you manage to trace the name I gave you? I asked. Bartek shook his head. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Sorry. He was avoiding my eyes. A trickle of sweat ran down his temple. He looked afraid. What's up, man? I smiled. Spill the beans. I'm a big girl. I can take it. But he just clammed up. You know what? I think you should drop it. I stopped. He was scared of something. I turned to Bartek and touched his arm. What's eating at you, man? He shrugged and shook his head. You can tell us, Anya added gently. I taunted him a bit. What are you afraid of? I spread my arms. Little old me? Okay, a little break. This game tracks your decisions on how Maia approaches problems. They will accumulate and gradually reveal what kind of a person she is, deep in her heart. The story changes to reflect Maia's personality. So if we're jerks, it's our own fault because we're deciding the personality. So we want to do this like as close as we can within the confines of the decisions we've been given. Well, he brushed his forehead with the back of his hand. I did ask. I started with the old people here. I told them that my friend from the States was looking for her roots and wanted to know about the place her family came from. You know the drill. At first, people were very, receptive. I waited for the other shoe to drop. And then I mentioned your name. He shook his head. I urged him to continue. Bartek, no dramatic pauses, please, I urged him. The tension is killing me. One of the old men here told me to go to hell. The other spat on the ground, and his wife crossed herself. For a moment, he looked younger and smaller. And then my own grandmother told me to stop asking. She said something else as well. I tensed up. What? I asked. She told me to pray for you. Suddenly, the sweet golden afternoon wasn't so sweet and golden anymore. Who was I? I looked at Bartek, and I knew the story he'd heard, and he'd clearly strained something between us. He was afraid of me. Who was I? We walked in silence, but my mind was in overdrive. People didn't want to talk, and that could only mean one thing. I was on the right track. People were scared of my family. My pulse quickened, and I tensed up like a hound that smelled blood. I was on the right track. Every time you learn or do something significant that brings you closer to your goal, you regain willpower. Yeah, you told us that already. Alright, moving along. So this is us, and this is Anya, because she had the braided hair. So we're the girl, the blonde girl. Anya's the brunette with the braids. Bed and breakfast. Białowieża had a few hotels and hostels, but the preferred form of accommodation was bed and breakfast. So that's where we stayed. I found one that was nice, clean, and that had good reviews. We had a room on the second floor with a huge window and a great view of the forest. We dropped off our stuff, and soon we were ready to head out again. The day was hot, and we were young and restless. Will you show us around? Anya smiled at Bartek. Sure. What do you want to see? Before you go, check out your character sheet. Look for it in the upper right corner. You can find useful info about Maia, her background, personality, goals, and so on. You can check who your friends and enemies are. So Maia Borodic, age 24. She's a student, American. Not very brave, not very inspiring, but very not very analytical. Very spiritual. Interesting. Healthy. We're learning about our family, and people were scared of us. We have Anya. Can we actually click on that? Maia's friend from university. She came from Norway. Bartek is our friend. Family. It's complicated. All right. I wonder if that we'll have to like consult that for choices or anything like that. Białowieża was a quaint tourist town, but I had other things in mind. The lay of the land. I had a clear goal in my mind. My family was entangled with this town and the forest. I had to uncover my roots. Anya and Bartek went with you. So, go to the forest that I dreamed about, or the town my ancestors... I mean, we would go to the town my ancestors lived in. They don't know about this forest, or the crazy dream that I had, so we don't need to go... That's a bit much right now. We'll just go to the town and dig up, because they know I want to learn about my ancestors. I'll walk around the village. We walked through the village, bathed in the sharp rays of the summer sun. It was a lazy afternoon, disturbed only by the occasional passing car throwing up clouds of dust that hung in the air long after the vehicle was gone. Anya was walking close to Bartek, asking him about every little detail in the village. People were relaxing or working in their yards, dogs were barking, and every cat we passed froze to look at us. People seemed quite friendly, though. Some of them smiled at us as we passed by, and every once in a while we stopped for some small talk with people who knew Bartek. Expected fewer stairs. I would say the cats behave strangely because we already noticed a cat once. So we probably would notice if more were acting weird. What's with the cats? I asked as we passed a tabby who stopped in the middle of the sidewalk to meow at us. I don't know. They're cats? Maybe they want to make up for the villagers' manners, Bartek shrugged. You know, some people are wary of newcomers. I was curious why. Why? I asked candidly. It's complicated, Bartek. Bartek scratched his neck, embarrassed by the topic. There's a small conflict around the forest, you know, and it's attracting some weird people. Activists, reporters, bored rich kids. He said this as though his dad didn't own multiple businesses. People like that. And they're getting on the locals' nerves. I noticed Anya frowning. Anya looked skeptical. I looked the conflict up online, she said, and it didn't look so small. It looked pretty important, actually. For a moment, Bartek looked like he was lost for words. Well, you're not one of those crazies, and you're, like, almost local, he smiled. So what would you like to see in the village of your ancestors? He spread his arms as if to show me all the splendor the village had to offer. What do you suggest? Family graves, last hopes, new friends, hidden intentions. I mean, if you were going to show people around, you would not take them to the cemetery or the abandoned railway first. You would start at the village center, so that's where I say we go. A bird of many colors. This is such a nice village, exclaimed Anya as we walked along the quiet street. Nothing moved. The heat was stifling. The village was really quaint. It's quaint, I carefully admitted. Is that a nice way of saying it's a shithole? Bartek made a disgusted face and we burst out laughing. I was thirsty. Let's get something to drink, I proposed. I'm parched. The local store was a large mini-mart with all kinds of goods, from beer and vegetables to notebooks and pens. There was a bench near the entrance, and on it were a few local drunks. They looked colorful, so I waved at them as we passed, and one of them wolf whistled, and Bartek winced. They were an easy target for a joke or two. Who are you? I laughed at them. The local bums of the year? You must be so proud. Hey, shut it, one of them shouted back. Have some respect. Oh, I'm so sorry, I said with faint sympathy. Did you manage to lose that competition as well? After a moment of tense silence, they burst into laughter. We spent some time inside browsing the Latvian, Lithuanian, and Belarusian goods. Why was there almost nothing Polish in here? And who in their right mind drinks coriander soda? I was putting the soda back on the shelf when we heard a commotion coming from outside. Some slurs, some curses, and a clear, mockingly polite, I'm so sorry, darlings. I don't understand. Do you like my skirt? Oh, fuck, Bartek murmured under his breath. I looked outside. There was someone standing next to the drunkard's bench. They were definitely not local. The person was old. Not helpless granny old, but old, with deep wrinkles and a narrow mouth. They had the unisex grace of a tired, heroin-preserved rockman. Their shoulder-length, disheveled hair completed the look. They looked out of place. They looked like someone had teleported them there from a different planet. They had a clean shave and eyes highlighted with eyeliner. Their nails were painted in bright blue. They wore heavy arm boots and an outrageously red skirt, and a tank top with lots of leather jewelry. On their bag there were pens, lots of pens, all kinds of LGBTQA flags, anarchist and pacifist symbols, and I think some German band stripes. Mom would have told me to stay out of it. Don't get involved, my mother always told me. You keep getting into trouble. You don't want to get into trouble around abroad when there's no one to help you. But that was the problem, wasn't it? I always managed to get involved. I just couldn't let it go, even now. I approached the foreigner. I smiled and ignored the men, approached the foreigner. Hi, I'm Maia. I just got here, I said. They looked at me with a serene smile. Nice to meet you, Maia, they said with an unmistakable German accent. I'm Kim. We started talking. What brings you here? I asked. In Białowieża, I mean. I came to see the forest and to protect it. They sounded deadly serious. Me and my friends heard about what's happening here, and we decided to come and help. The men on the bench were looking at us grimly. Hey, someone said suddenly from behind our backs. Kim smiled, and the men on the benches stiffened. I turned around. The woman approaching us had the longest, thickest braids I'd ever seen, as thick as my arm. There was something faintly Asian about her facial structure. The men on the bench looked at her with deference. You should stop drinking that moonshine. It makes you pick fights you can't win, she said. She looked ferocious. And the drunks started explaining themselves. But look at this, Elzunia, one of them said, gesturing towards us. For the last fucking time, the name's Lisa. She pronounced it Lisa. And this is my friend. You're to leave her alone, got it? Her Polish sounded weird. More melodic, or maybe mellower, even when she cursed. The drunkards mumbled and went back to drinking. Thanks, Lisa, Kim said in English. You shouldn't have. Oh, but I wanted to. I asked who she was. Who are you? I asked. I'm Lisa. I live here. She looked me up and down. And who would you be? This is Maia, smiled Kim. She's also not from here. Oh, are you here to protest the logging? She raised her eyebrows. Or just a tourist? Why were they logging in the national park? Wait, isn't this place like a national park? I asked. Why are they logging here? You'd think they'd leave the oldest forest on the continent, the beating heart of it, alone, wouldn't you? She looked at me with a grim expression. There's illegal logging here, Anya chipped in. Wood is money, and there's plenty of wood in this forest. Suddenly, a feeling rushed over me. I was burning. I couldn't see the forest from here, but suddenly I felt very aware of its presence. I also felt something else deep in my stomach, spreading through my veins. Anger, like a wave of heat coming from the heart of the dark, ancient forest. A word appeared in my mind, a strange one that was neither Polish nor English, called Gira. Lisa looked me in the eyes and spat on the ground. I'd eat those greedy bastards alive. I noticed Kim was watching me. I felt like I was being watched, and when I looked up, I saw Kim observing me with a very curious expression. They were hiding something. I looked at them and realized they were much more than they first seemed. Under their colorful attire lurked something else, something primal. Why are you looking at me like that? I asked. I know you have strange dreams, they whispered. I suspect the forest is reaching out to you. They leaned closer to me. It runs in your blood. The words were like a punch to the gut. Trust me, I know. Who was I? Who am I? I asked quietly. You can see the invisible, they said, looking at me in the eyes. You'll find the way. Suddenly, I felt confident. I felt a sudden surge of confidence. I wasn't making that up. There was something strange in my family history, and there were people who knew what was going on. Before I could ask more, Anya and Bartek approached, and Kim shook their head, silencing me. Meet us tomorrow at the logging site. They blew me a kiss and put their arm around Lisa and walked away. We decided to leave as well. I kept looking over my shoulder, but no one was following us. Okay, all right. Interesting. This is gonna be a slow burn, but I'm okay with it depending on where it goes. But it's a slow burn right now. I think our next step will be to go to visit the family graves so we know more about our past. But we will wait and see on that. I think I'll save the abandoned railway for last. I can't think of a reason why we would go there other than it's in the game. So we'll jump into the family graves next time. Guys, thank you for watching. This is kind of a weird one. I'm gonna admit it's a little unusual, but I'm in it. I'm curious. I want to see where it goes. I want to see how werewolves play in, so I'm down for it. Anyway, if you enjoyed it, thank you for watching. But until next time, take care of yourselves.